only on one day a week. I get it. I'm going to have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the House Bar Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the House Bar Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Welcome back to the show. So, Mike Pence, famously, apparently the man they built those gallows for on the Capitol grounds. Wow. Imagine being a person for whom in the modern era, gallows were constructed. What? All right. So Pence tweets January 20th, 2021, gas is $2.39 a gallon. June 11th, 2022, gas is $5 a gallon. American prosperity under the Trump-Pence administration, priceless. That was his little zinger. And so I responded January 20th, 2021, 2.9% vaccinated, 4,409 deaths that day. June 11th, 2022, 77% vaccinated, 371 deaths. January 2020, and by the way, all of them unvaccinated holdouts. Every single one a Trump-Pence voter, largely, statistically speaking. January 20th, 2021, unemployment, 6.7%. June 20, 2021, unemployment, 3.6%. June 20th, 2021, the deficit was $132 billion. June 2021, deficit is $66 billion. Trump's deal with the Saudis to cut oil production in 2020, priceless. So I had brought up this thing when we were talking about gas prices and the like and price gouging and all the issues therein. And the percentage of the cost of a gallon of gasoline that is profit as a percentage has not changed in years, still to this day. It's about 12%. 12% of what's coming out of a gallon of gas is oil company profit. As the price goes up, obviously that it goes up. That 12% is worth more. However, 3/4 of the cost of a gallon of gas, which is the measurable part that fluctuates the most that you can do something about, is production, is oil and refining, is the price of crude oil, which makes up over 50% of it, and refining capacity, which takes up over 20% of it. And right now, the cost of refining is slightly higher, but the amount of refinery capacity, it has largely cratered. Considering, we're not back to, we're 1 million barrels short a day of 2018 production capacity. The amount that was just in the market available to be turned into gas. I know. Was that a cat or your chair or another human noise?
Cat.
All right, good. Because you picked her up too quickly and she was like, hey. All right.
It's what she's been begging for.
Everybody at home really knows that if the cat wasn't in the room, you'd have blamed it on the chair. And we all know the truth. Yeah. Right. So the gouging conversation, while gas companies certainly benefit from the rise in cost of gasoline, that 12% goes up. It has not fluctuated, as much as we're talking about the price gouging part of it. It has not fluctuated, in so far as the numbers, between now and a year ago and the year before. It hasn't. It has not. I can't stress this enough. I know the price gouging conversation gets around, and oil companies are taking in more revenue, but revenue is not profit. And the cost of oil worldwide is up. That should not shock anyone. The cost of refining is up, but because of wages being up and actually getting people back to the job, and the fact that, quite frankly, the kind of folks that work at refineries in the United States tend to lean in a direction of being, what shall we say, vaccine hesitant politically.
They like to vote against, how you say, their own interests.
Right. And they tend to have, in the last couple of years, died in droves.
Yeah.
And so there is a reality lever that I don't think gets enough attention. Most of the economic conversations we are hearing right now are largely pretending that COVID was a blip and didn't exist, or that was 2 years ago because they're pegging it on the day lockdowns started, not on the entire period of time and all the damage done during that time by the disease itself and the compression of the world economy and the decision during that time to sever supply chains. We have decided, the culture decided a while back with the pushback against NAFTA and the desire to end, globalization, even while at the same time not recognizing the benefits of portions of it, saying that it's just bad and factory jobs were lost overseas, that Ross Perot's giant sucking sound, all that stuff has been seen as a negative for a long time. And the nation as a whole, across the political spectrum, genuinely, it's one of the most bipartisan things that's going on, has been anti-globalism in one form or another.
Yep.
From, Bernie Sanders arguing for, working people's rights because their factories were packed up and sent to Mexico or China, or corporations moving their, raising their profit base by having stuff built or assembled in China because of the cost of labor over there for a couple of decades. That the impacts of those things and the wind down around that is, as far as its economic benefit, the return on investment on global supply chains being as thin and as far away as they got. The most bipartisan aspect of our current understanding about how things should be in the economy genuinely is the end of globalization as we know it. I mean, it's a simplification of the conversation, but it's there. And one way or another, I'm going to find you. I'm going to get you. No, one way or another, both sides, the entire political spectrum believing that, has decided that COVID was the moment to cut bait, was to sever those ties and start reshoring towards, these factories, bring them home. The biggest, and most obvious sign of that, chip factories. The United States is opening more chip factories, computer chip factories, than any other country in the world, by a factor of 3, including China by volume. That is enormous. And basically, we have decided that anything that's high tech, we're going to start making in the United States. And anything that's medium tech is going to be in the United States and Canada. And anything that's medium and low tech is going to be made in Canada and Mexico. That's
cool.
That's what's happening. That's going to occur. Get used to the idea. It was a necessity born, 25 years ago, when there was a bum rush for the easy, the available labor and the cheapness of it in China and other places, and shipping and all this stuff became easy and cheap, and it was worth the balance cost, right? In the same way that most people would rather go order something off Amazon and have a truck bring it, most companies would rather build something in another country and have a ship bring it, right? That it's cheaper, it's easier, it requires less effort, less physical labor. How about that? You don't go shopping physically, you just look on your phone. That's you deciding, that's specifically you deciding that labor costs are lower if I outsource it to Amazon. That's what Americans in general have been doing. For a while they've been drifting that way, but COVID brought about a spike in human beings, individuals in the United States making business decisions in their own skin that are the equivalent of the global supply chain push. The rush towards ordering stuff online and not buying at retail stores is basically a microcosm of what the rush to assemble things in China was. I mean, it's a great analogy for why those choices were made when they were made. The downside to, the death of retail and the death of exercise and moving around, the idea of going to the mall and walking around can be, part of what the conversation that we'll have about why there will be a balancing act where we'll retract to going out. We'll go out for live events, but we'll buy stuff online. That maybe retail stores go away except for things you have to try on and big ticket items that you want to see because they're shiny. Other than that, you'll just order at home, right? And those retail stores will vanish and be filled with either something or nothing. Get used to the idea that a lot of the buildings in your business areas aren't necessary anymore.
Right.
They just don't have a use. And they may never again until somebody comes up with another version of something like giant stores where you go down and you're in a VR tank and you just lay in, right?
Giant stores where you go down and urine. I don't like the idea. That's
I'm just saying it would take off. If the internet has taught us anything, there's a niche audience for everything.
You have brave ideas.
Yeah, I do. I'm not afraid. The point I'm trying to make is that as we all, I think everybody references the giant sucking sound that Ross Perot brought up when he was, of course, talking exactly like everyone expects someone to talk, if indeed they listen to nothing but Napoleon Hill speeches their whole life. If you go back in time and you listen to 1930s speeches from Napoleon Hill about how to be successful in every aspect of your life, you will find exactly where Ross Perot got his speech patterns from. Now, but everybody across the spectrum, because of our hatred of trade deals and the like, which is ironic because we kill local trade deals because of our anger about distant trade deals, but yada yada. That's another topic for another time. Everybody loves to bring up the giant sucking sound idea about where the factory jobs went, where the stuff went, without recognizing that when that giant sucking sound inverts and there's a giant regurgitation, it's not necessarily going to be pretty. That when when the rubber band snaps, when the chain is broken, when your fishing line is cut, there's always a backlash. There's always a temporary thing, even if it was for the good, even if it was for the better, even if the tension built up over time was in its whole a negative. And so what we're seeing right now is the result of the part and parcel to the decisions made decades ago, really, and the excesses around that kind of stuff. Just like any bubble you would see in the stock market or the tech bubble or credit default swaps and that kind of stuff. The difference is that we bet on a world where we could trust supply chains for a very long time. And that turned out to require a tremendous amount of naivete about two countries in particular, China and Russia. That the dollar signs in people's eyes, and I don't mean big business, I don't mean corporate greed, I mean people. Cheap, cool stuff. That was enough to make them look past the obvious signs that we were headed towards things like the Uyghur genocide and the obvious signs.
I'm sorry, I've got a Tourette's thing I have to address.
Uh-oh.
There was Convoy played with his band. It was a young band, and every time they would introduce a song, they would get really into what the lyrics of the song were about. They would tell the story.
Oh boy!
And then they would sing the song. It was tedious, and There's one time the guy goes, "This next song is about corporate greed. It's called Corporate Greed."
Oh no. Oh dear.
So now every time any band introduces a song, we just all look at each other and go, "It's called Corporate Greed."
Agreed, right. Look, yeah. I mean, conversations about corporate greed are valuable to some degree, but they also are a great way to outsource your own greed and pretend it's not there. And that includes the fact that Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the White House. Reagan took them off, and not a squeal. Yeah, exactly. And had they just stayed on, the technology would be considering how far they've grown in 6 years, in the last 10 years, specifically since the bailout when Obama came in, when they funded some of the research into solar panels, the growth since then. Imagine if that growth had started in 1979, because it's not like material reality has changed. We didn't discover a new isotope. That growth is amazing. We got to take a break. We went way over the break. This next break is called Corporate Greed. All right, we'll be back right after this. I'm kidding.
By greedy corporate
Stuff. Money, money, money. Money, money, money.